again. My name is Luvuyo Mqigela, and we are back from the Papama Foundation. Very important and rather probably one of the most important lessons I'll give today. Today we'll be speaking all things mental. So without wasting any time, you can see my drawing here, and that it has two triangles and a human body in the middle in balance form, sort of. So obviously now I'm going to explain this whole balance situation here and explaining it in a way that would achieve understanding, or for one to get this balance or to even strive towards it. So we'll be using symbols, probably know them, to explain some principles and important occulted knowledge on the mentality or on our mind as human beings. So we'll speak metaphysically, so we can make references to the spiritual world and also the physical. So, for example, the red triangle represents male, represents masculinity, it represents small building blocks. So it's masculinity. And then the green one, looking down, facing down, represents femininity. The chalice, it's even in a shape of a womb. So when they are balanced, you get what you guys call the Star of David, or the symbol which is found on the flag of the Israel country. So obviously here I'm exploring sorry about that. So obviously here we're exploring how to achieve this balance as a human being. So let's talk about the male and the femininity. So in respect of obviously the mind. So the masculinity represents the carnal mind, the ego mind. So, and then the femininity represents the subconscious mind, or our heart space. So obviously with our heart space, or the femininity in all of us, this is our creation realm, the subconscious realm, you see. So we create from our subconscious mind. It's the realm of cause and creation, and the realm of effect is the conscious mind, right? Because as consciously you are able to speak, express yourself, go out there, do this, that, act. Subconsciously, the actions, the behavior that you are acting out is obviously created by you based on what you want to do and achieve. So the power to which this is used by you obviously will depend on your belief system and also your imagination capabilities. So you can see the human drawing is specific in terms of cutting this part here, so the shoulders or a bit of the neck down. This is symbolical because the human brain, physically speaking, you sort of like have three minds or three spheres of the brain in this dome here. So we have obviously the God brain or Aries brain, the cerebrum. And then we have the cerebellum behind, so it's like the mammal brain. And then we have the medulla oblongata. So when this happens, sort of when you're balancing your femininity and your masculinity, the ego death, you can say, or the understanding or transmutation of materiality, because it's this the material. So it would have to, so this symbol here symbolizes that the mammal brain or the medulla oblongata, or we can say you have to slay the dragon in order to balance, meaning you have to cut, not physically, so it's a metaphor, you have to cut the cord at the instinctual brain or the mammal, so that the so you gotta cut the instinctual brain here, so that as a person, spiritually speaking, you can come to this point here. So this part of the head, this is the capstone when you see the pyramids of Giza. That is not there. So what you see when you see the pyramids of Giza is something like this. It's not accurate. So it's something like this, which does not have sort of a capstone. So the capstone represents obviously the dome, or where God sits, like the seat of God, or God's chamber. So this is self-actualization, whilst this is the physiological things, nature of things, the self-esteem, the security, the belonging, all of that we're gonna immerse physically in the world. But from this point and up is the self-actualization, the non-physical stuff, coming to the mind, imagination, you see. So all things mental. This is now obviously the creation. So this is, you can say light, dark, or left, right, or yin yang. This is the created universal rules, or the manifested world, and how it works. So obviously the manifested world, we are explaining it in conjunction with the non-physical world and also the physical world, so that in between we have the metaphysical world. So metaphysically speaking, obviously we perceive the world consciously first, and then that consciousness, according to our beliefs, acceptance, and our worth and knowing of who we are, gets transferred to become, to create the life that we want, our reality, and then it finishes to be the life that we're living. And so obviously, if this life that you're living is not fulfilling, you have to change the conscious mind, so the canal brain or the ego mind, so that it can affect the habitual brain, your subconscious mind. Also very important, since we're speaking all things mental, everything starts from the mind. So everything that ever was, this board, this pen, this marker, my clothing, you, I, everything that we can see, perceive with our eyes, physicality of things, it was once thought of as an idea. Hence now Einstein and other people say that imagination is more important than knowledge, because knowledge represents the physicality of things. I said, knowledge represents the physicality of things, what you've done. Imagination represents what could still be done. I said, the self-actualization, the mind, the brain. So this is very important. So imagination is obviously important because it cleaves to no tradition or no already set rules. So for example, in my conscious mind, I know that there's certain ideas, for example, that if I were to come up with them, let's say for business purposes, they would not be feasible, not all of them, because of what, physically speaking, we already have laws, we already have rules of what and what not to do and what to do. So consciously speaking, there's limitation. But when you come to the imagination, so if I imagine now of any idea without thinking of it consciously, so I just use my imagination freely, my imagination can obviously take the rules of the manifested world. It will depend on how I use the faculties. They can take the rules which will confine it, but depending on your belief system, if you are also an open-minded person, then your imagination can reach other planes or other realities. It's so with the premise, obviously, that everything starts from the mind, then you could argue also that maybe this whole thing we call life, well, there is an argument that this whole thing we call life, or this created universe, is the big brain of Big Papa, the created universe. So it's as though that you can also take it further, that assertion, if it's correct, that it says, it doesn't matter in fact if it's correct, but if it says that we in this created universe, for example, and this is the big brain, or the created universe represents the tetragrammaton, or the tetragrammaton, I think you know it. So it's like this picture of the brain, but it is the picture of God with angels extending his hand to humankind, or to Adam. So the picture, I think it was done by, I don't know, Alexandra or Michelangelo, back then, Rome Renaissance. So obviously, with that premise that everything starts from the mind, you now want to really be careful of what you think for yourself, what you believe about yourself, because then that is what manifests in your life. What you think, you become. Buddha said that. So because thinking, so like inception is the thought, or let's say idea or imagination, it's going to be thought of, felt, and then it goes to the habitual brain for creation, and depending on how many times you think about it consciously, the habitual brain gets the power to create it, because obviously now you are impressing it on the subconscious mind. So for example, also practically speaking, we also speak of creating a habit, and then we speak of 21 days. So 21 days, obviously, in this case, represents a metaphor that your conscious mind will have to do something, let's say something new for a certain while before the subconscious can take it as firm or as truth, accept it as truth, because this is controlled by a belief system, how you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself, and what you see as true for yourself, and what you see you deserve in the world and everyone else around you. So this is how you perceive yourself and the world here. Right. So obviously, since this is a human body, you can have your chakras. Obviously, there's root chakra here. You're gonna have the sacral. No. Root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, root, third eye. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Heart, third eye, sacral, and the root. Okay. So this is obviously at the base of your vertebrae, your bone structure, vertebrae, your at the base of your spinal cord. The first energy will be there, picked up there, your root chakra, and we have the sacral chakra, your umbilical cord. That's where the second part is. The third part, which is now your gut feeling, your gut feeling just underneath your breast or chest, and then your heart, your throat, your third eye, and the connection to the universe. So obviously, going down to earth as physically as it is, there is also earth chakras obviously that go down. You understand? So this is the connection obviously above and then below. So heaven, hell, light, dark, So obviously these are principles. It's not like literal, but obviously it has the literal connotation to it because things are connected, physically speaking, metaphysically speaking, spiritually speaking. You see, so you want to know who you are before you can sort of express yourself in the way that in which you would want it to yield more for what you've been doing or expect more from it. So obviously we're following the laws of the universe, the law of mentalism. And today we're speaking about that, all things mental, the law of correspondence, law of vibration, the law of cause and effect. So law of mentalism, obviously, as we're speaking about it here, states that everything is mental, and all that we perceive as physical, spirit, matter, anything is in fact spirit, animated as physical. So obviously that science continues to say also, physically speaking or scientifically speaking, the universe is 99.9% non-physical, or you can say an atom is 99.9% empty space, which is to say that as you can see physicality of me now, it is 99.9% non-physical. So that means that if you take a microscope and look at me or place it on my body to see this non-physicality, you would see moving moving cells, at a higher speed, because it's my body. But if you look at, let's say, maybe the wall or this board, you'd see movement of electrons at higher speed, So within that atom, which you say is physical, yes. So the universe is obviously non-physical more than it is physical, and the illusion is that things are physical, and obviously when things are physical, it's easier for a human being to be scared of what you call death, for example, physical death, to be scared of the idea that the archetype that you're trying to be or praying to, for whatever reason, is in fact human, and it has the same heart and mind like you do, and so it is jealous, it is envious, it has all the qualities of a human being, yet we ascribe all the supreme powers to it. So the archetype, obviously in this instance, would want you or challenge you to use it as a blueprint on how to live your life. The archetypes here, there are a lot, variety of them, but speaking of one thing, the one that we may most famously know as is Jesus Christ. We know Buddha, we know Muhammad, we know Shiva, we know Marduk, we know there's a lot. So it's all these beautiful archetype hero story that are in representation of the psyche, spiritually speaking, of the human mind, or the capabilities in the psyche of the human body, of the human being. Because obviously it defeats the purpose to want to find more about yourself, but you're thinking you are physical, because physicality has limitation, death, expiry date, decay, all those things. So there's the limitation, just like this life created, physicality, it's created, hence it's always changing, it has a finite life. So we are obviously infinite force trapped within the finite body. So obviously this is also, again, someone might say that this is a Gnostic expression of view of the Christian faith. You're probably correct or wrong, whatever, but I'm teaching ancient occultism and the better known as the know thyself knowledge. So obviously it would have the connotations of the physical world spoken of here in a rather higher level. So I really implore you to do your due diligence and do your research so that you can meet me halfway, because of not everything I will explain details, yeah, but you get me. But I hope this made sense, and that obviously each chakra represents a planet. We'll talk more about this, obviously, as time goes on. But today I'd just like to end it here, that all things are mental, or all things mental. So as the first law of Hermes Trismegistus, universal laws, or laws by Thoth, state that the first law is the law of mentalism. So all things mental. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you do comment and like and subscribe. Share the video with anyone that you think and feel will like, resonate with, and appreciate. I love you very much, and from me and the Puma Foundation, we send you peace, love, and blessings. Bye bye.